Welcome to another RaiderPower.com mailbag. I'm Jarret Johnson. Once again, I'm joined by senior writer Joe Yeager. Joe, how we doing today?
Well, pretty good. Bad luck last time. Maybe a little better even.
Hey, can't complain about that. We have a bunch of questions to get into. Some of them a little more complicated than others, so we're going to dive right into it. Red Raider 28 stated that he's a guy who values defense more than anything, on the football field. And basically, he wants to know about how many defensive tackles he thinks we should, or Tech should, go after, and how many realistically they would land high school as opposed to JUCO. Do you think you could look at 2 to 3 high school? If they could get 4, I think they would. But I think you look at 2 to 3 high school and maybe 2 to 3 more junior college. Some of the obvious guys that they're looking at are Darian Daniels, Zach Abercrombie and both DFW high school guys. Another guy is Courtney Wallace, Louisiana, that they've offered. He's a big old Southern dude that can
Can't have enough.
yeah, right. Hey, that's what you're looking for. Big old Southern dudes to yeah, that's right, to clog the holes. So, and then some of the JUCO guys. I know that Raider Power writer Alyssa Cristo interviewed, and I'm going to butcher this, so I'm sorry in advance. But Tyler J.C. Motekai Male. He's 6'3", 300 pounds. He said in that story that he's very interested in Tech. He's also very interested in several other schools. But he's somebody who grew up rooting for Texas Tech, was really excited to get that offer, and is somebody to keep an eye on for sure. Next question from Rawls Landman. He wants to know, this is a good question, if you could add one team to the Big 12, who would it be and why? And if you want to do 2 to make it even, or say none at all, then you can do that as well. What do you think, Joe?
I'm going to add 2, and I'm going east for both of these, Louisville and Pittsburgh. Okay. All right. Now, both of those programs, and this surprised me a little bit, both of those for the last 5 years have been averaging over 50,000 per game in football. Good attendance. Both of them in pretty large urban areas, particularly Pittsburgh, so you're bringing in some TVs. You're probably making West Virginia happy.
Yeah.
They got some local guys that they can play, and they don't have to fly out into Lubbock and points hither and yon all the time, so that should make them happy. You bring in a couple of excellent basketball programs as well. And, you just sort of kind of strengthen yourself out east where the population centers are. If that's what we're going to do, I think it's a good fit. Pittsburgh in the ACC right now, but I don't see the ACC as any stronger than the Big 12. And the Big 12 is stronger in football, which is the primary revenue producer. Yeah. So, I think that's something that works for you there. And you might be able to poach them away from the ACC, and Louisville would come here at the drop of a dime, I think. Yeah. So that's my 2.
Well, you went literal. I'm going to go hypothetical, and it might anger some of y'all, but I would love, it's not going to happen, obviously, but I would love to bring back Texas A&M and Nebraska. I miss those two opponents. Like I said, I know it's not going to happen. Any of the Louisville and Pittsburgh's as good as any. As many as any of the other schools that you could bring up, like BYU, they don't really get me excited. I feel about the same way as I did as West Virginia. Good program, but I miss the rivalry with A&M. I miss the hatred between the two of playing those games. And Nebraska was just fun. It was fun. Brought a lot of prestige to the conference. Great fans. That was the next thing I was going to say. Wonderful fans. So I miss those games. Question is from Tornado Watch. It's an APR question. Oklahoma State he mentions Oklahoma State took a hit and is kind of suffering the consequences. And Tech was really close. They were, really low. They're right there at 932. He wants to know what the program is doing to address this and if we've seen anything. Where I've seen it the most is in recruiting. There have been some guys, and you can look at the 2014 class. There's some guys that they initially were recruiting and offered and then backed off because of grades. Not because those guys didn't qualify, but because they didn't want to take the chance of taking the hit of the APR. Next question is a basketball question. Joe, I'm going to let you tackle this. It's from Motor City Titans fan. It's about the recent ESPN article where basically it was mentioning the worst possible destinations for college basketball coaches, and Texas Tech was an honorable mention on this list. In your opinion, does Texas Tech's location work against them in terms of recruiting top talent?
It's not a complete negative, and it's not a real plus factor either. It's somewhere in between. Yeah, Lubbock is pretty isolated. There's no question about that. It's quite isolated.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at West Texas, this area produces maybe one legitimate major college prospect about every other year.
Yeah.
You're not going to make a living off of that. And then maybe New Mexico will produce one about the same rate. So you're not going to make your living at home like that. You got to go abroad a little bit. DFW is a recruiting gold mine.
Yep.
And it's only, say only, by West Texas standards, it's not so long, 300, 320, 330 miles away. And Tech is well connected there. And there's no reason whatsoever that Tech can't bring in really high caliber recruits out of DFW. And I think you're going to see that more and more as Tubby sticks around and cultivates his sources and resources in that area. So that's a huge thing. I mean, Tech, without DFW, Tech is in major trouble, basketball-wise. But, hey, it's there, so we don't have to worry about that. But the invisible factor, the invisible sort of recruiting field that a lot of people don't even think about and know about is the JUCOs in this area. And I forgot to look it up. I don't remember the name of the conference, but there's a very powerful JUCO basketball conference, and Lubbock is geographically situated right in the middle of it. And now this conference produces plenty of major talent every single year. If Tubby can just hit and Esposito and his guys can just hit this and skim off the cream of that, get a few guys out of DFW, the odd player that pops up in West Texas or New Mexico, and then supplements that with another player from who knows where, Houston or Ohio or wherever, then you're okay. I mean, I don't think Tubby is crying himself to sleep over the recruiting situation here. But it's not as easy as obviously as it is if you're located in New York or Philadelphia or someplace like that.
And you wrote a pretty good story about that JUCO gold mine. It was several months back, but I remember looking at that. That was a good story. I'll link it in the thread here. Next question is from TTU 2001 BA. He wants to know if Tech has a legit shot at landing defensive end Rasheem Green out of California. The simple answer is no. I never like to say no shot, so I won't say no shot. But in other stories, talking with other scout people on the West Coast, he's mentioned like USC, UCLA, Oregon, staying on the West Coast. The only really East Coast or centrally located school I've heard him even mention seriously is Alabama. So I guess no. The answer would be probably not.
Don't hold your breath.
Probably not. Old Texan 1953 wants to know, he says, assuming Rika Levy will occupy two blockers most of the time on passing downs, who among the other defensive tackles will be the best at getting to the quarterback? Joe, do you want to try to tackle this?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. The two guys that you got there right now are Demetrius Alston as the starter, and Keelan McElrath backing him up. Alston, a little bit undersized, but he played well at times last year. And, he's a JUCO guy from a year ago, and a lot of times those guys, their second year is when the light comes on and they really start to contribute. So hopefully that happens with Alston. McElrath is a first-year JUCO guy, a great big monster of a guy. And began to show some signs, I think, towards the end of spring that he could be a little bit of a factor there. Now, one thing to think about here, and also the JUCO guy coming in, Brandon Thorpe, who I'm really, really high on. I think this guy, even though I think JUCOs usually need a year, this is one guy, if there's a guy who's an exception to that rule, I think it could be him, and I think he could make a play there. But if Levy is as good as advertised and can do what he's supposed to do at nose tackle, and none of those other three guys are getting the job done, I think there's no reason whatsoever you couldn't move Dante Phillips over there and give him a shot, because he looked like a real disruptor during the spring. So that's something else to think about.
And that's what they're going to do. I spoke with Coach Wally on National Signing Day, and he said what he was most excited about with bringing in these JUCO guys is that he feels they will be able to play immediately and help out. And with the guys that are returning on the defensive line, he'll be able to move them around and substitute according to the situation. If it's an obvious passing down, maybe get Levy off the field and kind of give him a breather. Then you can move Richards maybe at the nose tackle, more of a pass rushing guy, a quicker, faster guy, or like you said, Phillips, and then you have kind of the faster Pinion, Jackson, of course, on one end, and then a defensive tackle, maybe Thorpe. You could do so many things with these guys. McElrath, like I said in the story, he looks a lot quicker than I was expecting because he's such a big dude. And he showed ability that I saw at some spring practices of really knifing through the defense and busting things up, both in the passing game and the running game. So I definitely think it's going to be fun to see them move those pieces around. Coach Wally will have more pieces to work with for sure this year. Okay, big question here. Border Boy 26 wants to know who were some of the other quarterbacks working at Dave Whitfield's quarterback camp, along with Davis Webb out in San Diego. And I can't for sure say all of them, but here are some guys that I have found that have been working there the last couple of weeks. We have Nebraska's Johnny Stanton, Alcorn State's John Gibbs, New Mexico's Lamar Jordan, Tulsa's Dane Evans. Tennessee has two quarterbacks there, Justin Worley and Josh Dobbs. Michigan State's Connor Cook, Notre Dame's Everett Golson, Kansas's Jake Heaps, Ole Miss's Ryan Buchanan, Harvard's Ryan Hempel, Tulane's Tanner Lee, Northern Michigan's Shea Brown, LSU's Brandon Harris is a guy to keep an eye on, Kentucky's Patrick Towles, and Virginia's David Watford. Those are some of the guys that I've seen that I could confirm have been there working. I know Bryce Petty, Baylor's Bryce Petty, has been there working with him too. Now, I don't know if he was there last week or not, but I know that he has been the last couple of days working out there in San Diego. And from all reports, yes, Davis Webb looks outstanding. He is just tearing it up. Next question from Tapadaka. Do we have visitors? Does Texas Tech, he said does Texas Tech have visitors this weekend? If so, who and what's my take on them and chances of committing? Well, yes, Tech does have visitors this weekend, but the main one, the one that I can't blame anybody for focusing on, is Darian Daniels. Tech legacy, 4-star guy from Dallas Bishop Dunn. He's a teammate of Peyton Hendricks, your guy, the 4-star DB. They're coming here together. I direct message with Daniels earlier today, as a matter of fact, confirmed that he is coming. He's traveling with his dad, Tony, who was a standout in the mid-'90s. Yeah, me too. It's not so long back. I remember him as well. Tony, his brother, and Peyton, they're all traveling out here together. Of course, Peyton's moving in for summer. But so that's huge. So a huge opportunity for Texas Tech here with a Tech legacy and a big-time prospect. The Oklahoma State game, the road game, is scheduled for 6:30 on a Thursday. John Galt, 4TT, wants to know, do we expect a rowdy crowd for that game? And to me, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 6:30 is not going to hold those guys back at all. They averaged 59,000 a year last year, which was about 3,000 a year more than they did the year previously. And that's the conference opener for both teams. You figure Tech has got a pretty good chance of being 3-0 going into that one, assuming they get by Arkansas. OSU opens up with Florida State. You don't figure they're probably going to win that one, but still probably come in 2-1. There's a little bit of a rivalry going on there, I'd say, between Tech and Oklahoma State. So, anything less than a sellout really would surprise me. And it'll be pretty crazy.
All right. Well, another great round of questions. We really appreciate it. That's going to do it for us this week. Until next week.